just to check. So, through recording, kar rahe na? He's saying that. Yeah. All right. I hope that was fun for you. Let's kickstart the next session then. I know a little ahead of time, but it's fine, right? We can have more conversations. That just means that, right? All right. Our next speaker has, again, more than 25 years of experience. I think that is another theme that we are seeing in this session. She has, under her belt, she's an agile transformation strategist, and she's a trainer for professional Scrum Master Developer training, Scrum with Kanban, DevOps, design thinking, workshops, to say the least. Today, she's going to give us a walkthrough on the journey of transforming business agility through data-driven approaches. She'll talk about process alignment, streamlining Jira, utilizing Jira Data, automation, transparency, and behavioral impact. Put your hands together for Nisha Patel.
And I think I'm good. So I think of with this talk, it's gonna be anti-climax, right? We have kind of gone through the future and coming back to the basics actually. So, and that's what I'm gonna make you walk through, right? As to, yes, to leverage Gen AI, machine learning, the basic need is to first have the data in place, right? And how to achieve it in your organization, and how did we go about doing that. So it's gonna be a transformation journey that I will walk you through. And hopefully that you will be able to relate to your practical challenges and take some takeaways from this talk, okay? So, a quick agenda. Right after introduction, we'll understand the role of data and business agility. Probably we know by now. I'm not going to delve into it, but right after that, we'll get into discussing the transformation journey, the impact it brings to the organization, and obviously the key challenges and solutions and what's next. Myself, apart from what is already mentioned, yes, I go back a long way into the software development world, both in the services organization and product. And I call this out because the worlds are very, very different when it comes to services organization and product organization. I really like to work from empathy and then strategize what the organization needs and then bring in that transformation. And right now, I am an agile coach over past 3 to 4 years with Majesco, that is an insurance product company. And personally, I am a curious learner. Just to give an example, I'm learning graphology right now, a very different topic, and loves mountains. This is one from my last year's trek to Uttarakhand, Gangotri, and I enjoy coffee talks, so we can have many more talks from there. So before we go into the depth of data-driven agility, I think we know by now, I need not explain, but just a recap, right? When we say organization agility, business agility, the basic fundamentals are that we're looking for agile development. We're looking for why? Because we want to be more responsive to change. People are looking for faster time to market. And then all of this with optimized cost, right, without compromising on quality. That's the key, right? And that's where agility or business agility plays a role, right? How data changes things. So data-driven agility is not about using data to get that deeper insights to be able to take decisions faster, thereby enabling the organization to pivot and adapt real time. Right? That's the essence, right? And as mentioned here, right, that means that we want the data that brings in the transparency. So yes, I'm a professional Scrum trainer. So empiricism is the basis for agility, right? So bring in that transparency through data, okay? Get that knowledge, which is what you will use for the inspecting, how are we doing, and then go about taking action to have that continuous improvement, right? So as Jeff Bezos puts it, right, when you produce that fact-based decisions, then you're not actually, impeded by hierarchy. Let me put it that way. So you may have hierarchy, nothing wrong in that, but at least the data will speak for itself, correct? So well, this is one slide that will help us understand how we have achieved and how any organization, I believe, can get started, right? So let's say that this is year one, day one, wherein you have actually just got your teams trained, okay? So I'm actually a homegrown Scrum Master. Way back in 2008, we were trained. The Scrum people in the organization were given that skills, that understanding, that agility mindset, and then we went on to, I was probably the one who onboarded the journey of PST, and then train the trainer happened. So yes, we never hired Scrum Masters from outside, but that's what it was. And then we went on to train the teams. So let's assume, go back to the time wherein you are actually moving from your predictive way of working to having those Scrum processes, safe processes, or whatever the framework that you're adapting, right? But you have a strong foundation to begin with, okay? Don't even have to think about data at this point in time, but have that process alignment, and which is where you are heavy on training, coaching, probably working very closely with the team because you want to really understand how things are happening on the ground, okay? And side by side, you want to align your tool as well, okay? Yes, without tool, that efficiency and effectiveness is lost, okay? So yeah, while we say individuals and interactions over tools and processes, you would want to leverage tools to have effective interactions, right? Okay, so it's not going away, but that's where we realized actually that on the ground, while we were using tools, they were not aligned to the value-driven development that we wanted to do. Just giving a very simple example, that your tasks were moving across the board rather than your backlog or feature moving across the board, right? And that is where the shift needed to happen, and that is where we actually fine-tuned. And I'll give an example of Jira here because that's what we predominantly used, but it can be done with any tool, right? So we actually changed the workflow for the backlog item to move, or in Jira terms, stories to move rather than the task to move. Now, while this was happening, what was happening was like the coaches, the Scrum Masters and trainers, after training, were also working day in, day out with the team, okay, to not only see how the process is being used, but also to understand and ensure that the tool is also rightfully used, okay, so that we don't get into the space wherein, processes, this tool is telling us something else, okay. Right after that, we began to start with what we have, okay, so making it simple, right. So Jira and Azure DevOps gives you out of the box charts, reports, all of those things that we used. Taking a simple example, we had velocity chart to look at, we had burn down chart to look at, we could query the Jira and understand how many stories are refined and all. And that basic data, which was a manual collection and manual queries being run, we went on to generate leading and lagging indicators purely in an Excel format. So what I'm trying to say is that start somewhere, right? Maybe not Excel, but start somewhere. And that is where we went on to, leading indicators were a great tool, wherein we continuously published them, helped people understand what story it is telling you, right? Assess that trend, continuously we were seeing that the refinement process is not up to the date, because up to the mark, because we were hardly refining the stories that in the same sprint that the team was working on. So if you had to improve your efficiency, and if you had to do a better job at completing the stories within the sprint, you obviously needed to get ahead of the game, and that is refinement. And that is what we were able to go back to the team. See, while you are having your meetings, but your data says that you are not doing enough. Okay, so either you make your refinement meetings better, or you increase the frequency. Right? So those were the kind of conversations we were able to have. So primarily, if you think about it, the assessment of the trend was mostly done by the Agile coaches or the Scrum Masters who understood the data, okay, understood what kind of questions to take it back to the team, empowered the team with this information so that in their retrospective they can do the right RCA. Okay, so we took this basic information to the team every retrospective. And imagine the time wherein agile coaches are with them for at least 4 to 5 sprints, attending their daily scrum, attending their planning and retrospective, etc. So making effective use of the data, taking it back to the team to drive that behavioral change. Okay, right? And then once this was done, we actually started with an onboarding of at least 3-4 projects. So ours is a product development as well as product implementation organization. So whatever product we have developed, we actually implement it for the customers as well. So what it meant was that while this was ready for certain customers for whom we were doing implementation, we needed to make it organization-wide. And that's where we started to standardize the queries that are used for our reports, again, still sticking to the Jira standard dashboards that we were using, right? So it is still leveraging queries, filters, and building the reports out of it. All we did was that the conditions remain same across all projects. And that brought in the consistent behavior and consistent process following by the teams when it came to standardizing reports. So imagine we had how a program is doing with respect to scope and planned number of sprints, how a Scrum team is doing with respect to how their teams are performing day in, day out, sprint by sprint. And the same thing when it came to customers trying to understand that how are they getting business value and the objectives that were set in their quarterly plan, which was the feature progress that we were able to show, right? Again, might sound very basic, but it was a journey, right? We started slow, steady, and now the organization-wide, we have that information being consistently used. And once, also think about the fact that now the language of the people have also changed. By now, they have got used to using the metrics like our commitment reliability is this, our capacity utilization is this, our average velocity is this, and so on and so forth. And I'm again sticking to the basics, right? Because that's where you will go about starting, okay? Right after which, we did obviously understand the need for us to bring all of these together and automate it, right? Till now, it was the agile coaches who were looking at the data, analyzing, going to the Scrum teams, the RTEs, the project managers, this is what it looks like. Okay. Now is the time that we need to bubble up this up and make it an executive view as well, because we wanted to understand the organization trend as well. Okay. Now product company means that the product is same, your implementation is almost 90% same, while you might customize some features here and there, right? That means that be it any Scrum teams, you should be able to see a similar trends as what the organization was thinking, okay? And that is when we thought of, bringing up all the subsystems together. So our finance was in another system, our project planning was in another system, and the Scrum team was working on another system. We needed to marry all of them together. And we started doing that, primarily with the intent that we needed to see a trend so that we know which areas to focus on for continuous improvement. That was the intent. Again, keeping it very simple, we did, yes, data warehouse came to our mind, but that was too much of an investment. It's not a big data to begin with. Even now as we speak, we are just designing it. So yeah, we don't have data warehouse, but we are able to leverage Power BI analytics tools to be able to, build that trend, because now we have gathered that historical information, correct? So that's where how our automation is helping. Something that was refreshing once in a week is now refreshing every day, okay? Now you can imagine the kind of behavioral changes that happen. We would go to the team once in a week, oh, your required velocity is quite high, we see a schedule slippage, you may not be able to get it done, your defect density is high. They know that this person is going to come back only next week. I have an entire week to look after into this matter. Now it is a daily thing, right? And that speeds up the action that the team needs to take, okay? Don't think it like we are running behind the team with a stick. but think it this way, that we want the team to take action earlier than later, right? So that was the intent. Right now, we are at a stage wherein we do have that data analytics using Power BI visualizations, wherein we are able to see the trending across how we are doing with financials, how each Scrum team is performing across product silos. So we have like billing, policy, distribution management, how each of the product silos are doing. What is our customer feedback from it in the form of customer defect density? Have we improved? Have we not? And actually that told us a story. While we thought that it is all about that the team is probably, following the process, everything is good, we have reached our North Star, we found that basically we were actually not testing as per the business point of view. We were testing the stories in silos rather than business testing. And that we could derive because of the fact that our customer defect density was quite high. Okay? So had we not looked at it, had we not analyzed it, had we not looked at by work stream wise, we would not know which one to attack first and correct it. Okay? So some things we feel that are very basics. I know, yes, user journey testing, BDD, all are fancy words to say, but to get it to the practical implementation does take time. Okay, right? And that is what we realized. We have been saying as agile coaches, oh, it should be functional testing, functional stories, but never did we realize that it has to be the business journey testing was never happening. And that is something that data told us, and we could go back to the basics. And that's what happened at the, with respect to the organization process also. So to drive that behavioral changes, right, we went back to the foundation meant that we went back to the tool, configured it in such a way that it drives the behavior change, okay. So I'll just take an example. Our plan and execution was in two different space. Okay, Gantt chart in one tool, and then your execution in Jira is another tool. So Jira being a scalable framework, we went on to use an issue type, if people understand the issue type here. We went on to create an issue type of project where your initial plan can be configured and linked in. Okay, and we really scaled the issue type to do impediment management and risk management and all of those things. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you had a question. Sorry.
So I'm sorry, I'll be taking you a bit back.
Yeah, sure.
So you talked about the frequency of one day. How you arrived to that one day that is effective, not causing any problem of the focused hours the developers get on a daily basis.
Sure. So let me put it this way, right? The developers are still focused in developing. The idea is that, right, you are skilled at developing, you focus on developing. But are they doing the right thing? Are they keeping the quality right? Okay, are they following the right process? This data was empowering them to understand their areas of improvement. So I'm not saying that they were looking at this data every day. Okay.
But then if they have to take an action on a daily day to correct it, that means either they are looking at it or a manager is looking at it, but then plan has to be adoptive. But then we are saying that the plan may have to adopt certain changes on a daily basis.
Let me put it this way. While the frequency is daily, right, I'm not saying that the action is daily. Not every action needs to be daily, for instance, right? I'll give you an example where the daily action or regular action, rather than daily action, regular action, they would be able to see their open critical high right there and there without running a query, and they could see their inflow and outflow and the resolution rate. It helped them to plan their sprint better. Okay, it helped them to we also have how are their sprint burn down is happening. So those are the things that if team wants, they can assess it. But to answer your questions, it was primarily for the project managers to be able to be on top of the things which they were, what I can say, was slackers basically. Data hai, dekha jayega, when it will come to us, we will answer and we will have a good answer by next week. That pressure on the project manager to take action on the risk identified stays there. Okay.
But for that, we already have a retrospective. So do you mean that it will go away kind of a thing?
No, retrospective gets augmented. It becomes more effective because now your data is speaking.
So in that case, the frequency comes to the frequency of a sprint.
Frequency of the sprint, or your daily scrum is also inspect and adapt, right? If you think about it, on a daily basis, you're looking at your stories that are at risk.
But the inspect and adopt has different areas to discuss there.
True. Again, I don't want to get away from the main topic, but to answer your questions, right? Not every data is meant for everyone to be looked at every day. If you're understanding, right? So now, why daily refresh? We have 10 projects running, okay? While if we don't do this daily refresh, we might miss out the project that has taken action and got away.
Let me ask it in a different way.
Yeah.
What is it that is important to look at on a daily basis when you say that this is the frequency for it for a daily basis?
For the developer, for the Scrum team, if you ask me, for the Scrum team, is the daily basis is your Scrum board. Look at your Scrum board. Look at your items that are impeded and slowed down. Look at your burn down, whether it is going fine or not, right? That's your daily basis thing that you need to inspect and adapt, okay? No data, no metric per se. Sure.
I think apart from the Scrum process, what I feel if the Scrum team is actually working for a product, right? I think the important part is not about daily also. Actually, the change is happening from daily to real time. So do you have an ability to see the action of your team on a real time basis on the product which is live in the production? So, if you talk about the IT infrastructure team,
yeah.
Why do they have all these monitors to look at the uptime and all that stuff? Whereas I feel Scrum teams typically create their boundary until the delivery is done and then
yes.
defects.
Yeah.
But I think to get more
it should be left shifted.
To get more real-time essence of the work that they're doing, they should be able to do the real-time monitoring of the production. Maybe the feature that I delivered last sprint, real-time, how are they behaving on the production? Is that helping on the revenue? Is that helping on the customer conversion?
Absolutely.
That's what I feel
absolutely, like I said, it's one step at a time. We started with the very basic ones to drive the Scrum team behavior. Okay, then we went on to think about what is the business looking at, and that is where we focused on the features and so on and so forth. Yeah.
That's the shift with the data-driven agility, not exactly for Scrum Masters, actually for everyone.
Yeah.
That do you have the ability to look at your data on a regular basis? I don't want to get into a debate of again hourly, weekly, but the point is that do you have the ability, other than ability, do you have that thought process that as a team member I have to keep seeing where my team is going? I don't want to stop in one day. I don't want to stop in 15 weeks and say, oh, this is how I've done. I want to see it real time.
Yes. I think, and that's where we talk about building that mindset, right? System thinking mindset, customer centricity is all about that. While our software development lifecycle isn't changing, but the way we attack that and work is certainly changing, right? So, sure. So organization process and likewise engineering and quality practices. I'll tell you, simple thing wherein we trusted the team that they are doing code reviews very well. As simple as that, okay? It is there in the definition of done. We trust, okay, you have done code reviews, yes. But then we found that there were quite a few defects that were related to code reviews, right? We went on to update our workflow to include that code reviews. So it is always about, adapting your processes alongside. All right. So these are the bare minimal ones. There are many. In fact, there are many engineering metrics to your point, right? Right after you have developed, you run your statistic analysis to understand where your technical debt is, right? And so on and so forth, correct? So we started with the team metrics wherein you see the basic ones out there, and the good part was that it was not looked at in standalone, right? People did say, oh, I have 100% commitment reliability, which meant that what we planned, we delivered, okay? But then obviously your capacity utilization is at 50%. Now those kind of correlation, we were able to do that, okay? People who understood the data. And they were like, okay, now go back to the grounds. Okay, this is not what we thought about. So this helps when people try to game it without understanding the data, right? And it helped. It helped a lot when it came to seeing the correlation between the metrics and asking the right questions.
One question, sir.
Sure.
Because we are working on that
Yeah.
right now. When you talk about correlation, is that just comparison of the matrix, or are you guys doing any regression analysis? Are you creating any regression model out of looking at the, let's say, the customer UAT defects is impacted by velocity change over there?
Yeah, so good question. That would be our next thing. So when I say what's next is what I think you are referring to, right? Wherein we provide this inputs to the Gen AI, probably that's our prompt to tell us a story. Right now, we who understand, either the program managers, we expect them to understand, but it's primarily the agile coaches and now the PMO trying to correlate and raise that risk
So
and audit.
it's basically driven by human
Yes,
perception right
yes,
now?
right now it is.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
How do you assess backlog and productivity? Productivity only through velocity or something else also?
Well, while as a true agilist, I was against that productivity thing, but I'll give you a quick background to it, okay? Now this is a product development and product implementation, okay? When I accepted that, okay, makes sense, is that over the years, they have experienced that a certain feature would take certain, efforts to develop. And now that's a good historical data that is available, taking the worst developer and the best developer as well, okay? So there was an expectation that per story point, okay, it should get done about in 9 to 10 hours. That was the expectation. And that is where the productivity came in. What is a productivity per story point? How much effort does it take for us to deliver in one story point? Okay. While the backlog health was mostly to ensure that people are looking ahead of the time. We have refined backlog. People are doing the refinement the right way. So internally we had an index of 2. Meaning if your velocity is 20, we're expecting at least stories that are up to 40 story points that are in a refined state. So anything between 1 and 2 is amber, less than 1 is red, and that's how it went. Okay. So that actually brings me to another point. There were certain base targets that the organization had before we started collecting this information, okay? And that was too stringent, both with respect to defect density, productivity, velocity. Velocity was anything, but productivity especially. But when they realized that the organizational trend, okay, be it this team, that team, or that team, it is really complex for the people. Okay, maybe because of the skill set, iterations happened, so new people came in. So they realized and they actually went conservative, okay. So they changed it to be more conservative, realizing that yes, now we have a new workforce, at least 80% of our workforce is new. So now that's another thing, right? You may think something else, instead of starting with a base target per se, you want to first analyze and then set the target. Okay. Yes, sure.
Going back to productivity.
Uh-huh.
I think I've logged it. So my question being a product company,
Uh-huh.
when you talk productivity, are you stopping at the utilization of the team and the work related to what the team does? Or are we looking at post-production and then the feature itself being productive also? What exactly do you define as this productivity?
Yeah, it's like it's under team, right? It is mainly on the team productivity, okay? So cost optimization, right? Everyone is looking for that.
Is for the managers to look at?
Managers, yeah, so let me, yeah, developers' point of view, right? Now, that's why I think I'll come up in the later one. But we don't take it to the developers. We don't take it to the Scrum teams, okay? That, array, why your productivity is this, okay? The questions, it is important that you ask the right questions, right? What is it that is challenging for the team? Okay, this is observation, but if you go to the Scrum Master saying, "Arey, your productivity should have been 9, but it is 12, obviously the Scrum Master is going to do whatever is needed to gain the data, right?
My question being, in Agile, we usually talk about the team being self-driven,
Yep,
self-managed.
absolutely, absolutely.
When it comes to productivity, it is not a factor for them.
Yes, absolutely.
They need to deliver something, and that is what is productivity for.
Sure.
Looking at it from that perspective.
Sure.
All this metric is for the management
Yes.
to look at the progress, but then doesn't that go against the agile mindset?
So that's what I'm saying. Agile mindset, probably it would have been against some agile mindset if you are, what I can say, pushing them to get more things done. That's not how it is used. Like I give you an example of this, right? A productivity target was that's what the leadership thought, that per story point, 8 hours and less is what the Scrum team should be able to do it. But only after a year's data they realize and they re-baseline it that it's okay to have it between 9 to 12.
It's more for their perspective.
Yes,
Understanding
yes, that's one thing. That was one or second year of it, okay, the first or the second year of it. Third year, now it is the engineering COE that is taking what we could do to make them more efficient. Okay, now that we have come to this level, now what we could do to, actually they found out the gaps that while we assumed that they are expert in tools, because it's a very specific ICD, ICM development, school tool training is not there, domain training is not there, and hence the defects are higher. You see, so when you assess it in the right way, then the agility doesn't go away, right? Because data provides you that transparency. Okay.
So I have one small point here.
Yeah.
According to me, I think capacity utilization comes under productivity, because I mean, if we say complete umbrella, so there is a predictability which any leadership wants to see, and when we say predictability, it can be measured in 3 ways: predictability in terms of quality, schedule, and productivity. When we say quality, then we have like many metrics like incorrect fix and defect density and all. Then when we say schedule, we have to manage. Then we have delivery scope variance, velocity variance and all.
Yeah.
And when we say productivity, then that can be easily managed and seen by velocity variance again and with the help of capacity utilization.
Sure, so maybe again the definition could vary from organization to organization. In our context, the capacity utilization was that in this sprint we have a capacity of 180 hours, for instance. Okay, are we planning enough to have that, right? So we wanted that to be at least a stretch goal for the team, not 100%, not looking at 120, but at least you have done enough to utilize the team. Yeah.
With so much of data analysis and things, ultimately, even if a program manager shows it in any of the retrospective to the teams and things, so they come to know, developers, when I say developers are the smartest people. If they can develop those apps for you, they are the smart people
Sure.
with whom you are sharing that data.
Sure.
What is the mind shift impact that this much of data analysis goes there? Do we have any analysis on the same as well?
So I'm telling you, this is not taken to the developers. That's what I was trying to help. No, we don't. We take it to the Scrum Master.
So how will a Scrum Master?
And Scrum Master is already coached and trained to ask the right questions to the team, right? The Scrum Master is not there, is a person with an agile mindset, right? I'll give you another example of a shoe. Yeah.
You start with trust.
Yes.
And then when you start with trust, people trust you, they will blindly do whatever you want.
Correct. Correct. I'm with you. And believe me.
What I am trying to share here is, in my organization, my current organization, people do all these things. But then my team is getting into that mindset of process related. If we are doing this, then this is the process we will be missing, and I somehow feel that my core team's focus is a bit getting shifted.
I
As an agile coach, as a Scrum Master, this is what I feel.
Yeah. See.
The first question that comes to their mind is not the product value, which should ideally be coming after working in a Scrum team for 5 to 6 years, right?
It will, if you are asking and taking the right metrics to them. I'll again give you another example wherein 3-4 years back, we were capturing efforts for time reporting. And that's where the efforts that you put in were the ones that were questioned heavily. Itana ka time kyun laga and itna nahi lagna chahiye tha and all of those things. Come Agile, we stopped capturing efforts. We did not capture efforts. Now, we are again capturing, asking them to log the efforts. But this time, not a single question being asked to the developer as to how many hours you are logging. Because the intent of capturing the effort is for us to understand that the base estimates that we thought at the time of sales, are they good or not? Okay. So again, what I'm helping us realize is that using the data the right way and asking, that's my next slide anyways, that asking the questions and taking them to the team the right way is what is needed. Okay. So it's very important for us to not just take this, okay, this had to be 9 but it is 12. Then obviously people will, will then think twice, as you rightly mentioned, their focus changes, shifts. Okay. We are asking them to do refinement because there's not enough refinement and they know the value of refinement. Okay, so all of these are the places where Agile coach, Scrum Masters come together, and having that COE plays a very important role. So every COE, Scrum Master COE and COP, we actually go about helping Scrum Masters understand the data and what questions should they take it to the, because they have these questions. I can't take this to the team, they say this, say that, and that's where we coach them what kind of questions they should be asking to the team.
But I still, because I think she's asking about sharing the data with the team. To a certain extent, I agree, but I feel so there is a way to share the data.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly.
I think the first and foremost effort for any Scrum Master coach is to make the team think outwards, not inwards. Because if you share these metrics to the team, then you are making the team think inwards that how good we are working.
Yes.
Rather than that, share the metrics with them that after delivering this sprint to the customer, how many production leakage we had, what was the outcome metrics.
Yep.
If you are sharing the outcome matrix daily after a successful release, the team is actually aligned better to the outward approach.
No, that's an excellent point actually, an excellent point. So our delivery to the customer depends from customer to customer is either after every 2 sprints or after every sprint. Yeah. So I think you have a great point, right? We do analysis wherein right after the delivery, if we have a sanity that runs, we find defect, then it's something that we need to, look into. But having a metric around it will be a very powerful thing.
You can just share, for example, if there is a customer feedback coming.
See around it.
Feedback after the release, share the production.
Yes.
Came in the 2 weeks of observation time, because these 2 data should make your team come on their toes automatically.
Absolutely.
And then they will automatically improve the internal metrics. You don't have to even tell them.
Correct. So I think we're going back to the basics. So I'll just quickly, I think we understand the transparency on the, yeah. I'll just close it. I think we already discussed this, but the most important one is the effective risk management, right? Project management, program management is all about risk management, and asking the right question at the right time is what it enables us to do. We did discuss about key challenges, keeping the data up to date, data integrity issues. So what we went on to do is build a dashboard again, showing them these are the data integrity issues. So they know for themselves where the problem is and fix it. And data could be gamed. And that's where I was like saying, you need to ask the right questions, otherwise it will be gamed. Training, not everyone understands the data. That has been our biggest learning. This we have already been discussing since morning, so I'm gonna just leave it. So once you have built enough historical data, this is what we can go next. And that's it. Thank you.
I feel like the devil trying to time box all the conversations wherein I myself don't want them to stop. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Sanjay, if you have any slides and you want to do a quick check, let's do that. And before that, is there anybody who's taken a flight and traveled here? Yes. Can you please, ma'am, come here and do the honors?
Same. I also flew in.
Oh, wow.